We are officially in the stage of summer where all this hard work of growing these plants is paying off. We are harvesting herbs by the basketfuls these days. Things like tomatoes and peppers are just starting, so I'm not quite canning those yet, but I'm having so much fun already with the herbs. And herbs take anything you're cooking from just basic to amazing. They add so much flavor, but not only that, they're also nature's medicine cabinet, essentially. I'm thinking basil should be the next one into the freeze dryer, but then I also have quite a few other methods here that I want to share with you today of ways that I am preserving herbs for the winter months. Little reminder that when you are cutting your herbs, if you just cut off no more than 2/3 of the stem, they will continue to regrow and give you more and more herbs throughout the rest of the summer. Okay, that should fill a few freeze dryer trays. Now the first step when I freeze dry is I like to wash my herbs. Technically you wouldn't need to since it's coming straight out of my backyard garden, but I find enough like little, I don't know, little bugs, or sometimes underneath of a leaf there'll be potato bug eggs or something like that. I don't know. I just like to know that I'm not eating anything like that. And so I'm gonna wash them and then run them through my salad spinner to make sure that they're nice and dry before we put them on the trays. For something like basil with the bigger leaf, I pick the leaves off of the plant before I freeze dry them because they're not that hard to do. However, if it's something like oregano or something with a tiny leaf, I will just freeze dry the whole stem because they are much easier to strip off once they're dried. And then leaves like this that are partly eaten, that will become chicken feed. Something I was not aware of until this year is that you can actually pack herbs into freeze drying trays like this. So normally when you're freeze drying fruits or really any other type of food, you want to make sure it's single layer so that it dries evenly. However, I guess it's because the herbs are pretty light and airy. That's what I've been doing all summer so long. It's been working beautifully. So I'm going to take this down to the freeze dryer. We'll get that started. For those of you that are curious what I've freeze dried in the herb department so far this year, I like to store my herbs in these big gallon jars. I just get these off of Amazon. I think they're in my Amazon storefront. I should make sure. And then I put in 1 or 2 oxygen absorbers because obviously after going through all that work, you do not want these to spoil. Sometimes things like blueberries, blackberries, if they are in these jars too long, I feel like they will start to get a little bit of moisture, even though this is technically an airtight container. But if you're wanting to save that for months, I would probably recommend like vacuum sealing those. But these I use from so frequently, and I did I'm trying to think. I think I finished the last of last year's herbs this April, May, something like that. And they lasted really well. There was no moisture that I could tell, and they did not spoil. So that's what I'm doing again. In fact, I've been buying more and more jars because as I get more and more into herbs, I just can't seem to stop. Throw those in here, and then I just make sure to label because sometimes it is hard to tell them apart after they are dried like this. So this is mint tea. There's way more mint in my mint patch, and mine is a mix actually of like a peppermint and a spearmint. They are not separated, like it all just kind of grows together. If you look closely, I think the spearmint is a little bit shinier and darker of a leaf, but I just do them together. Then I have some lemon balm, which I really enjoyed drinking last winter. I hadn't grown any last year, but I was able to just buy some locally. This year, I wanted to make sure I had that. It's amazing for your nervous system, for your digestive system, for immune boosting. It has so many good properties, and so I'm excited to have that. Then I have almost a full jar of lemon basil. So I have a couple different types of basil I'm growing this year. What we just threw into the freeze drying trays is just more the regular basil. What I like to put in pesto and things like that. This also makes delicious tea. And then we have some thyme, which I think is so pretty in the jars. And then finally, I have a big jar of oregano. Isn't that pretty? That's my favorite part of mixing this drink. I have this pretty much every single day, and unfortunately a lot of electrolytes out there are actually filled with a lot of junks, but elements, electrolytes, and even just the ratios of like magnesium to sodium to potassium is science backed, and so you can feel confident in taking it. Oh, I love that. The kids are outside right now. Or they would come running. My whole family actually will enjoy these, especially on these hot days. Element can help prevent and eliminate things like headaches, muscle soreness, fatigue, not sleeping well, and other symptoms that come from an electrolyte imbalance. Electrolytes are not just something that athletes need, it's something that us busy moms at home need too, you know? My doctor actually strongly encouraged me to start taking electrolytes. I have noticed a significant difference just when I started like taking electrolytes consistently. I feel like it was 3-6 months maybe until I really saw a big difference. For me, that was a huge upgrade, shall we say, in my monthly cycles. They suddenly became so much easier and more manageable. I used to have to plan my life around my cycle, and that is not fun for anyone. Right now, Element is offering my viewers, so this is specific to you guys, a special discount code where when you place any order, you get a free 8 sample pack. And I just did lemonade salt, love this one, but in this sample pack are some of their best sellers. So watermelon, citrus, raspberry, orange, just gives you that option to really try a lot of flavors. So if you want to give that a try, just head over to drinkelement.com/goldenhour for a free sample pack with any order. Chamomile is so delicious, calming. When you make it in a tea, it's actually really relaxing, and it's a great tea to drink before bedtime. It's also amazing for your stomach and for like an upset tummy. Again, a whole list of benefits, but the flavor is delicious. And so I wanted to turn some into a jam, and I'll try to leave that recipe for you in the description box as well. But that's what these little jam jars are. And kind of taking that same idea, I need to head right back out to the garden and pick more peppermint because I want to make a mint simple syrup, can that as well, and have it just super easy to pull out as a concentrate to either add to teas. You could use this as the sweetener to your tea, or to make meadow tea, mint tea if you're not from Pennsylvania, all winter long. starting off with about 6 cups of mint leaves. You could also do the stem, but you have to watch out a little bit more than that it doesn't get bitter. I would love to do all honey in this, but I don't have enough on hand, plus 8 cups of honey would get pretty expensive. So I'm using an organic cane sugar, and we're gonna do 8 cups. I accidentally let my tea come to a boil because I was out visiting with a friend that stopped in, which is super fun. I don't have quite enough of sugar, so I'm gonna finish the rest off with a bit of honey, and we'll stir this in, let it dissolve, and then actually let this tea steep now for the better part of the day. And then later we just need to add a little bit of lemon juice and pour it into jars and then can. Another way to preserve herbs that I've already been experimenting with this summer is herbal finishing salts, and let me tell you, this is so simple. I cannot stop using the one salt that we made, which this was a Himalayan salt basil. So there's 2 ways that you can do this. If you have a freeze dryer or have access to really good dried herbs, you can do the easy method, which is what I'm showing you today. But if you just have a bunch of herbs in your garden and you're wanting to preserve those, but you maybe don't have a freeze dryer, you can still make these salts. The difference is pretty minor, but you will need just a little bit more time. So both methods, I'm gonna go equal parts salt and herbs. Now, the amount of herbs that we're putting in here can be however many you want, but let's say I'm doing a tablespoon of salt, then I'm gonna want a tablespoon of herbs, whether that be 1 herb or 5 herbs. It's supposed to equal 1 tablespoon. And since my herbs are already dried, I can just put that amount in here and it's literally ready to use immediately. If you're gonna store this, you probably wanna put it in an airtight container. I would love to get some cute little salt cellars or jars with lids or whatever to store these in. I think it would just be super cute, but I'll have to keep my eyes open for that when I'm thrifting. For now, I'm just gonna put it in these little jars to show you, and then I think I'm gonna store mine right by the stove. It's so easy to use that way. If your herbs are not dried, all you need to do is mix your salt with your freshly chopped fresh herbs, making sure that they're finely chopped, right? Or you can also throw the salt and the herbs into a food processor. That works as well. I recommend a coarse ground salt for this. I'm actually using a Himalayan pink salt, which also adds a fun color. But then after it's pulsed together, you just lay it out flat on a parchment lined cookie sheet and let it air dry for, I would say, up to 4 days till it's thoroughly dried out, and that works really well as well. That's actually what we did with this one. For my first salt here, I think I'm gonna do a sage salt. And I think for this one, I'll just do the sage and the salt. And if I had some lemon zest, that's what I would put in here. Let me check if I have some lemon zest. Oh yay, I do. Half of a lemon left. So I'm gonna zest a little bit of this into here, which of course then means that I'm gonna need to let this dry. But sage, if you're not familiar, actually really aids in digesting fats and is delicious on meats or stuffing, so many different ways. My encouragement is try new herbs this summer. That's what I'm doing, and oh my goodness, what a fun experiment. Okay, I'm gonna take the back of my spoon and we'll just stir this all around. This one is not as pretty as some, but sage does smell absolutely delicious. In my next one, I want to do some thyme. So I'm going to do a tablespoon of thyme. And then I have a little bit of rosemary left from last summer. Just going to crush that up a little bit and do a tablespoon of rosemary. I wish I had some garlic powder. That would be good in so many of these, but I don't. So I'm gonna do half a teaspoon of hot pepper flakes. I'm sorry, that's half a tablespoon. And then the other half of the tablespoon we'll do with parsley. You can tell this is gonna be delicious just by how it looks, but we're gonna stir it all together, and that'll be the next one. Next is a tablespoon of thyme and a tablespoon of paprika. And since I don't have quite enough paprika, I'm gonna again pop in a little parsley. Man, I wish I could let you smell this through the camera. It smells so good. I know we've used parsley in a couple of these, just a touch of them, but parsley is one of Josh's favorite herbs. So I think we're gonna do the last one, just a parsley basil salt. So a tablespoon of parsley with a tablespoon of basil. So anyways, if that is a new idea to you, I hope you really enjoy that in your kitchen this year. Next, I want to do some herb-infused oils. These are also so delicious in cooking. My one word of caution if you're doing a culinary oil like this is just to make sure that you're using dried herbs. You do not want to use fresh herbs, which I know kind of makes an extra step in the process of preserving herbs, but it's worth it because there have been a few cases of botulism if you use fresh herbs, because the juices of those herbs and then the oils, that does not always turn out well. So just to be on the safe side, I would highly recommend just using dried herbs. Whoops. And these last for months. I believe it's 6 months on the shelf and even longer than that if they are in the fridge. And with the amount of oil that one uses in cooking, we're talking a pretty lengthy time of enjoying these. So I'm gonna keep these simple. What I wanna do next is much more like mixes and combinations. So I think for the oils, I'm just gonna do 1 herb per oil. I'm doing 1 3/4 cups of avocado oil per jar. And then I'm gonna do a half a cup of dried basil. And then these need to sit in a dark place for 2 weeks to let the herbs infuse. Next up, I want to make a couple of vinegars. I found these bottles at the thrift store and I thought, how fun wouldn't it be to preserve some herbs in here by making some herbal infused vinegars. In my first one, I'm actually gonna put some freeze-dried strawberries. So we're gonna make this a little bit of a fruitier flavor. I'll do about a cup, I think, of freeze-dried strawberries. And then I have half a cup of dried hibiscus flower. And then I'll do a few sprigs of thyme and top it off with vinegar. I want 2.5 cups of vinegar. So I actually pulled 2 different ones here because I don't think I have enough of just one. I'll do part white wine vinegar and then part balsamic. Pivoting from the balsamic idea because I want to be able to see all those herbs in there. So we're just going to do the rest in white vinegar. Peter Piper picked a pair of peppers from Pop. I'll need to fix my lid because my cork broke off. But the biggest thing is you want to be mindful if you don't have a metal lid because metal and vinegar do not get along so well. So if you just have like canning jars or something like that to store it in, you just want to make sure you put like a layer of plastic wrap or something in between the lid and the actual contents of the jar. But this is what it's looking like. It is so pretty. And this needs to sit in a dark place now for about 4 weeks before you can use it. Put it in the refrigerator. If you use dried herbs, this vinegar should last up to 3 years. If you're using fresh herbs, then 6 months to a year is probably about the time you'll get out of it. For my next jar, I'm gonna do tarragon and thyme, and then part apple cider vinegar and the other part white vinegar. I decided to pull some of the vinegar out and rather add a little bit of balsamic yet. Give it a little bit more depth in flavor. We're about to play with some butter, so you know it's gonna be good. But before we do that, we need even more herbs. So this is what, my 4th time out to the garden today, I think. But let's go once more and get some more fresh herbs. I already know that this is a huge hit for our family. We like it in pretty much anything. You could literally even melt this and put it on popcorn, adding such an incredible flavor. Plus, there's so many options, like with flavor combinations and all of that. And so anyway, we're gonna play with that a little bit. I feel like the only way that I can make too much of herb butters for this winter is if I literally figure 1 stick a day. We just cannot keep this stuff in the freezer. So I'm gonna wash my herbs again, and then I also picked some pansies and marigolds because I thought those would be really fun to press on the outside of the butters and just giving them fun little colors. So let's get started. For my first butter, I want to do chive and pansies. I'm dividing these up in about 1/2 cup packages, and that way it'll be easy to know later how much I'm dealing with if I want to add it to pastas or breads or whatever. This is what we're looking like. Can you imagine pulling that from the freezer in January and eating it with some fresh bread? I cannot wait. But I'm gonna wrap these individually in saran wrap and then maybe also in parchment paper, and then store those little packages in a big Ziploc bag in the freezer so they stay fresh. Oh, that is so happy. I love this kind of thing. It just makes my day to look at that. But last time when we did this, I wrapped this in some parchment paper then and wrote the herb that the flavor is on the parchment paper because you can't write it on the saran wrap. But this time, and I don't know if you can even see that, I just used my little labeler that I've also been using to label our oils and stuff like that. And it seems to be sticking okay. So I think I'm just gonna do that, and then I don't have to double wrap them in parchment paper as well. And then this goes, like I said, into a big Ziploc bag. So you can literally go wild with the flavors. And I wish I could ask you through the screen what flavors you recommend that I play with and like put together. But I was thinking it would be fun to do kind of a Mexico influenced one because we do love cooking a lot of Mexican food as well. So I picked some cilantro from the garden and I'm gonna dice that up, and then I have some limes. I think I'll put a little bit of lime zest in that one. Thank you. Marigolds are another edible flower, so for this one, I'm gonna just press in some petals. Obviously the flowers are totally optional, but it just makes it so fun. Hey sugar, do you have a nice nap? Done a number of savory butters now, so I wanted to switch it up a little bit and do a sweet butter. We love a good pumpkin butter or a honey butter in the winter time, and so we're going to switch it up a little bit. This is not a pumpkin butter or a honey butter, but a rose strawberry butter. Doesn't that sound delicious? So I've blended into a powder some dried rose petals. I don't know what that is, maybe half a tablespoon. We're gonna mix that in, and then I also want to add some crushed freeze-dried strawberries and probably a little bit of honey to give it that sweetness. I am very curious what this will taste like, but I'd say it definitely has potential. Our mint tea concentrate is ready to can now, so I think we'll just have, I don't know, maybe 4 to 6 pint jars. We'll see how we like that one. So I am boiling my lids back here, and I think we're all ready to do. I'm gonna do this with the oven method, which basically means I pour the hot liquid into my jars, and then I cover them with the hot lids, screw the rings on, and then bake the jars at 225 for 45 minutes. And I do that canning method with quite a few things, but hot liquids like this being one of them. These are the finished butters. So we have the chive butter, and then this is the cilantro lime. This is dill, chive and dill, and then this is the rose strawberry one. So I need to wrap them, label them, and then pop them in the freezer. But I'm hoping to do a whole lot more of this summer and just really stock them up for winter. Well, I hope that provides you some inspiration maybe as you harvest herbs in your gardens this week. Two things that I did not get to that I was really hoping to is basil, and freeze that in like little ice cube trays. I have these little heart-shaped ice cube trays that I thought would be super fun. And then also simple syrups for drinks and things like that. You can infuse herbs in that, and I was really excited for that, making them all these different colors. But it is time for me to wrap up for the day. So thank you so much for joining me. Let me know in the comments below how you are preserving your herbs this year, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye, friends.
Golden, golden thing.